Happy New Year to you all. What a wonderful crowd I'm seeing here today. I think I should start by asking you to rise and stand in a note of appreciation for the work of Daniel Stringer. Please rise. You may be seated. I've selected as my topic today, Beyond Multiculturalism, putting the Black agenda on the national radar. In September 2016, I was invited by the Atlanta chapter of my high school alumni to speak at their annual gala. While in Atlanta, my wife and I had the opportunity to visit the Martin Luther King Jr. Center. It was a strong reminder of the long and often brutal struggle for civil rights, voting rights, equal rights and justice for Black Americans. With delight, I found myself walking in the footsteps of heroes at the International Civil Rights Walk of Fame. This was not Hollywood and its stars. This was the only walkway to feature authentic shoeprints of civil rights pioneers the world over. I was impressed all over again by Dr. King's insistence on nonviolent resistance to improve the lives of Blacks. But I stood horrified in gut-wrenching disbelief when I saw the unbelievably long list of laws that were used to suppress Blacks and maintain racism. If ever you have the opportunity, I would encourage you to visit the King Center. Today, we honor Dr. King, his work and his accomplishments, and his legacy of strong, disciplined leadership. A Baptist minister, he was young, only 36, when he was murdered almost 50 years ago. For millions of people around the world, he was a hero and a mentor. After many years of lobbying, his birthday is now celebrated as a national holiday across the United States. Many people remember that speech he gave in Washington in 1963, the Dream Speech. It was his dream for freedom and justice, for an end to color prejudice, and for brotherhood across races. Yes, he spoke his dream, but he was no dreamer. Dr. King was a down-to-earth man. As an excerpt from one of his sermons illustrates, Dr. King was always concerned about the daily condition of people, and I quote, "Before I was a civil rights leader, I was a preacher of the gospel. And what I'm doing in this struggle grows out of my feeling that the preacher must be concerned about the whole man, not merely his soul, but his body. It's all right to talk about heaven. I talk about it because I believe firmly in immortality, but you've got to talk about the earth. It's all right to talk about long white robes over yonder, but I want a suit and some shoes to wear down here. It's all right to talk about streets flowing with milk and honey, but I want some food to eat down here. It's even all right to talk about the New Jerusalem, but one day we must begin to talk about the new Chicago, the new Atlanta, the new New York, the new America, and let me add, the new Ottawa. We in Canada who were witness to his life and invigorated by his work do well to teach about his costly personal stand for civil rights and justice. Dr. King is revered now, but we easily forget that he was the object of aggression and hatred when he was alive. He was jailed 36 times. The media was hostile. The Washington Post said he was irresponsible. The New York Times chastised him for going beyond civil rights, which they felt was the allotted domain of black leaders. Time said his anti-war stand was the slander of a demagogue. Of course, some things have changed. None of them would say that now. Around the time Dr. King was assassinated, multiculturalism was offered to Canadians as the national policy to secure equality and a leveling of Canadian society. It was to take us far beyond the two solitudes of English and French and make us one nation. Half a century later, it hasn't happened. Recognizing this, black communities across Canada have taken new resolve, uninhibited and unfettered by terms like visible minorities. They are nailing the black agenda back onto the Canadian radar. Black Ottawa has realized that for us, multiculturalism has not been the social leveler it was set up to be. We see others getting recognition and support, but nothing for blacks. Consequently, there has been plenty of activity in the black community over recent years. For Ottawa, the judiciary made visible strides with the appointment in February 2017 of Madame Justice Marlise Dumel, and in November last, of the first ever black Justice of the Peace, His Worship Paul Harris. Your Worship, if you're here, please stand and be recognized. Six other developments have taken place. To get to the heart of complaints about illegal police activities like carding, the province of Ontario, through Attorney General Yassi Naqvi, sent Mr. Justice Tulloch of the Ontario Court to tour Ottawa and 4 other cities. He listened to people and published his independent review of police oversight. It had 129 recommendations, and most of them are already enacted into law. In the meantime, the Ontario government created the Anti-Racism Directorate in a way that prevents another government to dump it, as happened before. Launched Ontario's 3-year anti-racism strategic plan, A Better Way Forward. Passed the Anti-Racism Act 2017, which enshrines the Anti-Racism Directorate into law and legislates an evaluation and renewal of the strategic plan every 5 years. Launched the Ontario Black Youth Action Plan, a 4-year, $47 million commitment to help reduce disparities for black children, youth, and families. Recognized the United Nations International Decade, 2015 to 2024, for people of African descent, to formally acknowledge that people of African descent represent a distinct group whose rights must be promoted and protected. Here in Ottawa, we witnessed the police killing of Abdirahman Abdi. This sparked in Ottawa's Black Lives Matter movement, the formation of the Justice for Abdirahman Committee, and the formation of Black Agenda Noir. In addition, the Young Leaders Advisory Council was formed. Beyond that, Mr. Justice Donald MacLeod launched the Federation of Black Canadians, a national organization driven by black organizations across the country, and linked it to the Michael Jean Foundation. You didn't get that, so let me repeat it in another way. A national organization of black Canadians has been formed. It is led by a judge and a former Governor General. This is new ground, worth your applause. So the Ontario government has been active with black issues, but the federal government remains largely silent. A working group of experts from the UN Decade for People of African Descent visited Canada, October 16 to 21 in 2016. It found several grave problems. In particular, the group said this: despite Canada's reputation for promoting multiculturalism and diversity, and the positive measures we have seen, we are deeply concerned about the human rights situation of African Canadians. In her inaugural address, September 27, 2005, our Black Governor General Michael Jean spoke of Canada's two solitudes. Il est fini, she said. Il est fini le temps de deux solitudes qui a trop longtemps défini notre approche de ce pays. It is finished. The period of the two solitudes that have defined our approach to this country for a long time. She was speaking about something more than English and French, about the full bloom of multiculturalism, which, in its original intent, is simply equality and full citizenship for all Canadians. But blacks have still been left behind. My brothers and sisters, the government of Ontario has stepped up the bat for black Ontarians. The black agenda is now firmly set on the provincial radar. The federal government is lurking in the shadows. It is up to us to drag them out into the light. Nothing is going to happen unless we push for it. So let the call ring clear to all of us to take a stand for justice and equality, to give voice to the voiceless. And that includes ourselves in the black communities. The cause endures, the dream will never die. Let the word go forth. We are taking up the cudgel. Let us be inspired by Dr. King as we seek to build the new Canada, the just society with rights and justice for all. Thank you.